Welcome everybody who is here. If anybody has any initial questions, throw them in and I will get to them as we go along. But what I'm going to show you guys today is how to take an existing floor plan and bring it into Sketchup and then actually trace over it to turn into a real 3D model. So what you can do is you can get this. This will work for like a DXF file or a screenshot of a plan or a scan of a plan. I like to do the scans and the screenshots because sometimes you get like a PDF document or you even have to like take a picture of a plan with your phone. So what you do is you get the image of that floor plan and you bring it in like this. So you go to import. And that's going to pop up this dialog box here. So I happen to have this floor plan right here. And when you bring it in, it's going to come in as a floating image like this. And so you click once, and then you click again, and you can kind of scale the floor plan. Now, I'm going to sort of arbitrarily scale it like this. And there's a couple of things to note here. So at this point, I do not have finite control over the scale of this plan, which is crucially important because we're going to be pulling measurements off of that. And the other thing to note too is SketchUp always starts with a scale figure, and that is this person standing here. And this is a true to life figure. So it's a really good sense of scale. So we can already kind of see that this apartment is clearly too small for the person that is here. So we want to get the scale right. So when you first bring an image in SketchUp, if you've used SketchUp before, like a group or a component is kind of its own separate little entity. When you bring an image in, it comes in kind of the same way, but it's its own little special thing. So it's this unit that you can move around like this. You can position it wherever you want, but you kind of can't do anything else with it. If you double click on it, nothing happens. You can scale it, but we can't really accurately scale it. So one of the first things we want to do when we bring this image in is just right click on it and click explode. And so that's going to explode it into a bunch of geometry that we can edit. And this is the first step into making this image a little bit more editable. There we go. Sorry, I have a shop helper below me getting into mischief. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to actually make this back into a group. And so we're just going to double click on it, right click on it, and say make group. So now this image is back. It's a traditional SketchUp group. We can manipulate it a little bit more easily. Now we double click on it to go inside it. And I happen to know one of the dimensions in this floor plan, and it's this long edge on this kitchen here. I know that to be 91.5 inches. So I'm just going to move down to the top and kind of zoom in and get this to the right size. And I'm going to use my tape measure tool. So I'm going to go up here and click on tape measure, and I'm going to click and release on this corner, and then move down here and click. And well, if I hover here for a second, you'll see that this is 6 foot 4 inches, which is not correct. So I'm going to click again. And if you look, if you guys can see in the very bottom right-hand corner of my screen, that dimension, 6 foot 4, is down there. So I've made that second click with the tape measure, but I haven't done anything else. So if I start typing the correct number, which in this case is 91.5 inches, and make sure I put the inch mark in there and press return or enter, this dialog box is going to pop up, and it's going to say, do you want to resize the active group or component? And I'm going to say yes. And so it kind of jumps a little bit bigger. And if we zoom back out, you'll now see that this apartment is much more the correct scale for the person that's in here. So what it's done, we took one known dimension and we were able to rescale this plan to the correct scale. And this works, no matter what size the imported thing is. So let's say I imported it and it was very, very tiny. That's okay too. You can just zoom in here, double click on it, click your tape measure tool, and click here and do 91.5. It will scale that as well. And it will scale it up to match. So it doesn't matter the imported scale. I like to sort of eyeball it and get it reasonably close, but you can do a finite scale like that. What I would recommend when you're doing this is get the largest dimension that you can figure out and use that one. You know, don't try to do it on a little, you know, 4-inch table leg or something like that, because it can get a little pixelated. You know, so the larger dimension you have, the more accurate it can be. By the way, if anybody recognizes the plan that's here, you will get 10 million internet points. So post that in the Q&A if you happen to know what this is. So once you have your plan in, you can actually start tracing it. So we're going to take the pencil tool up here, and I'm going to go through here, and I'm just going to pick a corner, and I'm going to click and release, and we'll just go around and we'll start tracing our plan. Now, this is all going to go really easy up until right about here. Because what Sketchup will do is when you are on the red or the green axis, which are these, the red is in this case left and right, and the green is front and back, Sketchup will help you snap lines to red and green. So it's pretty easy to get these right angles here. So I can get all the way up to here, but then when I get to this angled wall, I'm going to run into a problem. So we'll put this line in here. So when I go here, it's kind of not really snapping. And I mean, this is probably a 45-degree angle. And what I don't want to do is just kind of guess at it. I want to get it right. So I'm going to hit the space bar to stop drawing the line tool. And I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to go to View and Tool Palettes, and I'm going to click on Large Tool Set. And so what Large Tool Set is, it's all of the tools that are up here. These are kind of the basics or the starter pack of tools. So it's all those here, but then it's some extras. So right below the tape measure, there's one called the Protractor Tool, which works very much like a protractor that you would use when you're doing hand drafting. So if I click on this line that we made here, which is a little bit hard to see because we put it on top of this other black line here, but if I click on that, it's going to snap. So I'm going to click once, and then if I click again, I'm just going to click out here, it's going to start drawing a dashed line. And if I stay close to the protractor, you see my dashed line is kind of snapping every 15 degrees. Well, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the angle that it's currently snapped at. So right now it's 0, because that's where I started. This is 15 degrees. This is 30. And when it snaps at 45 degrees, it's perfectly aligned with that wall. So clearly whoever designed this apartment or this floor plan really intended that to be exactly 45 degrees. So I'm going to click again, and that's going to leave that dotted line there. And what's nice about that dotted line is we can go back to the line tool, and we can click in here, and we can now use this dotted line as a guideline. So our new line that we're drawing here is going to stick along this dotted line. And so we can click there, and we can continue going on and making this floor plan. So I'm going to stop this floor plan right about here. And we're just going to get the kitchen walls put up here, because I don't have all the time in the world. So we're just going to finish this one up right here. So I want you guys to see the magic 3D part. Now here's a cool trick. So I'm coming into the back here, and I want to make this other parallel line here. So if I sort of feel along this line with the line that I'm drawing, watch what happens when I pull away. So it's going to snap to purple eventually. Sometimes you have to sort of nudge it a little bit. Yeah, come on, Sketchup. Let's try it again. We'll make a new line here. Okay, so what it's supposed to do is snap purple. It's not doing what I want, but there's a way to make this work. So we can click Tape Measure tool, and if I click and release on this line, it's going to make a parallel line. And this is like a construction line. So I can just click there, and it's now made me a parallel line. And I can use that parallel line to go through here, and we'll kind of go like this. I'm actually going to shoot that one over the edge a little bit, and then I'm going to take this line here. So now we have a face, and I'm just going to erase this little piece here. So now that we have these walls sort of set up here, we can bring this up. Maybe we'll make this 96 inches tall. Maybe 90, like that. So you can kind of see we have the beginnings of this floor plan. So any questions so far? I don't see anything in the Q&A. Any open questions? All right, we're gonna keep on going. So we're going to focus on just this area right here for the moment. Then if we have time, we'll move on to the rest of the apartment. And again, don't forget, I'm offering 10 million internet points if you can guess this apartment. It is a hint. It is a very famous apartment that we probably all spent many hours looking at. Okay.
I assume that as staff, I'm not allowed to guess because I think I know.
You can guess at the end.
Okay.
And I will give you the 10 million internet points because let's be honest, they're worthless. All right.
I'll take it. I work for worthless. That works for me.
Nice. So we have a doorway here, and we want to get this doorway in the right spot. So there's, like with anything in SketchUp, there's probably a whole bunch of ways we could have done this. I could have modeled like a piece of the wall to the left of the door, a piece of the wall to the right of the door, and then sort of connected it at the top. But we're going to do it a different way. So what happens is, as you're drawing these walls on top of this 3D plan, you're making solid objects, and these solid objects start to obscure the plan that's below. And sometimes you want to see that again to reference more detail or to make sure that you traced it right or something like that. So what you can do is you can go up to View, and you can go to Face Style, and you can click Xray, and that's going to give you Xray Vision. You can look through the wall and see what's going on. So that's going to let us see where this door is supposed to be. So I'm going to go back to the tape measure tool, and you're going to see that I make a lot of use of the tape measure tool here. And so if you click on an edge of a line or somewhere in the middle of the line, and that essentially means not at the termination of a line. So anywhere in the middle, you can click and release, and you can start to pull away, and it's going to make this construction line. So I just clicked somewhere in the middle of this line in this wall, and I can actually follow along on the bottom of the wall here, and I can look to see where this door ends. Now, this plan is a little bit pixelated, but you can look in the bottom right corner too to see the current dimension. So this is how far away you are from that wall. And sometimes this will give you a hint as to what the right dimension is. So sometimes when you measure plans like this, especially ones that come from like a CAD drawing, they're oftentimes 2 foot, 2.5 foot, 3 foot, something like that. So if you're really close, like let's say, I know this one isn't, but let's say this was 23 7/8 inches, I think it's reasonable to assume that it probably was meant to be 24 inches. So you can make some assumptions like that, and that little measurement guide will help hint you that way. So I'm going to click and leave this construction line down here, and then I can use the same construction line, click and release again, and I can just pull another line off of here. And we're looking here. So it looks like this door is, 2 foot 11. I think it's safe to assume that this is a 3 foot door. So I'm going to say 36 inches. I could type in 3 feet as well. And I should back up just to really hammer this point home. So when I move this dimension over here, you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you see the current dimension. That's where this dashed line is at this moment in time. If I want to make this a dimension that I specify, I can just start typing a number. I don't want to click in that bottom corner. In fact, you can't click in that bottom corner. So I can just type in 3 feet. I know that's a little bit small down there, but type in 3 feet and push enter, and it will move that line back to 3 feet. So now we've set this line here at 3 feet, and we can then use the tape measure tool to establish the top of the door. So we can move up here, and I'm going to guess that this is a 6 foot 8 door. It's probably pretty standard. So I can type in 6 foot 8 inches. So you can switch back and forth. So I can do this in inches. I could do this in millimeters if I wanted. I could do this in feet, inches, whatever you like. SketchUp lets you sort of switch the dimensions as you go along. So I'm going to use 6 foot 8 because I'm in the United States, and that's what I know. So now you can see we've established the rectangle that makes up our door. So now it's super easy to punch a hole through to make this door. So I could take, actually there are a variety of ways that I could do this. I could take the line tool, and I could just draw 3 lines like this, and that will break up this face so that I can now take the push-pull tool and punch through and make that door. Just to undo back, I'll show you another way you could do it. You could also use the rotated rectangle tool, which will let you make a rectangle on a face that's not 90 degrees. So it's another way to do it. However you want to do it is okay. But the end result is this. So we can look around at the rest of the wall here. I don't really think we need to worry about these utility chases or anything like that. So we're good. So we can go back and we can go to View, Face Style, and we can turn off X-ray mode, and we can now see this door punch through. Let's see where we have for time. All right, we got a few more minutes. A little side tip for those out there, and I'm just going to check the QA while we're here. We are good on questions. So as you do this, so imagine you've like gone through and you've done, you know, the rest of this floor plan, and you're using this technique of using the tape measure tool, you and the protractor tool and all these, you are inevitably going to end up with a whole bunch of these dotted lines everywhere. And these dotted lines are infinitely long. So you can imagine as you're going along here, you're going to make a mess of your model with all of these. And there's two ways that you can get rid of them. Actually, three ways. The first, the most manual way, is that you can go in and you can click the eraser tool, and you can individually click on them and erase them. And that is a totally fine way to get rid of these. Where you can run into problems doing this is if you're a little ham-fisted, ham-fingered, if that's a term. You can, as you're clicking and dragging and erasing, you can sometimes accidentally erase things that you didn't intend to. So that enter the two other ways to get rid of guides. So you can go to View, and there's a checkbox here for guides. And if you uncheck that, all of the guides in your model will disappear. And this is a fine way to get rid of the guides, but you're hiding the guides. You've not erased them. And if you uncheck this box, what can happen is this. So let's say you go to the next wall. Let's pretend there was a window here you wanted to map out in the same way that we did the door here. So you could click this and you get your dotted line, and then you click again and your dotted line just disappears. All right, that was weird. Maybe, okay, fluke, try it again. Nope, didn't work. Try it again, try it again. And then you get frustrated, and then you email Aaron at Sketchup and you say, Aaron, why are all these dotted lines disappearing? Sketchup is broken. And that is not the case. If you go back to View, you turn on the guides, you will see that all of those guides that you were placing actually placed, but they were hidden. So it's a fine way to temporarily turn off the guides, not a fine way if you want to delete them. If you want to delete all of the guides in your model, which is what I often do as I go around, I'll make 3 or 4 of them, do what I need to do like I did with the door. Then I just want to wipe out all the guides and move on to the next thing. I like to go to Edit and Delete Guides. And when you do this, it's going to delete all the guides in your model. It's one click. That is my preferred method of doing it. So just be aware if you just uncheck the guides that you will disappear them for even new ones that you've created. So word of note. All right, so you're tracing a floor plan. We're at a point here on this floor plan where this wall, for the most part, is going to be its own, little section here. So let's say I wanted to start blocking out the kitchen cabinets, and maybe I'm just going to use kind of dummy objects here just to get a feel for the space. So one of the things that's really important in SketchUp is to separate meaningful parts of your model into groups or components, and here's why. So let's say you drew this up and you go, all right, well, I want to start, I want to maybe mock up where this refrigerator is and kind of get the sink basin and the oven and such. So you go in and, maybe you make a rectangle like this. This will represent the refrigerator, and you pull this up and you go, all right, this is looking good. Then you want to do something. You want to move this, or maybe you didn't want it here anymore, right? So, all right, maybe I'll take the erase tool and I'll erase this, and that's okay. But then you have to kind of erase all these separate lines, and then you might accidentally delete some walls, and you'll just end up making a mess of things. And you might go, all right, well, maybe I can just highlight this whole thing, and move it out of the way. And so you try to highlight it all, and you get in here, and maybe you get it selected just right, and then you go to use the move tool, and it's kind of stuck, and then your walls get all messed up, or something crazy like this happens. This is bad. And luckily, there is this can be frustrating if you don't know how to deal with it, but luckily it's just a super simple way to deal with it. And so I'm just going to undo all the way back. And so SketchUp at its core is a fast architectural modeler. And what that means is when you make stuff in SketchUp, you can very easily stretch and pull geometry to make basic architectural shapes. It's sort of in its DNA. And part of that functionality is the ability to kind of stretch and pull things like this. And so what happens is whenever you make stuff and that stuff touches other stuff in your model, it will have a tendency to stick together like I've shown here. So what you want to do is every time you make something, so I've made this little house mock-up here. I can triple click to select it all. And the triple click works because there's nothing touching it. There's nothing else in this model touching it. Or I could click drag a box and go like that and select it in the same way. And then if you right click it and you make it a group, this is going to put like a protective shield around this section of your model. And it's kind of represented here by this bounding box. So it's in like a force field. And this prevents other things from sticking to it. So, and I'll show you what that means with this refrigerator here. So we'll go over here. And since this floor, which I kind of glossed over this in the beginning, but this is already in a group. This floor is like protected. It's got a little force field around it. So if I click and drag and I select this section of wall, I can right click it and make it a group. And now you can see it's in its little bounding box and it's safe and protected from everything else. So now I can go back and I can make that refrigerator that we just made. I'm gonna pull it up like this. And now when I select it, it's much easier to select with the drag box because it's not going to select this wall because I'd have to encompass the entire wall to get it selected. The other method I can use is the triple click select, 1, 2, 3. And now it only selects the refrigerator component because it is only touching other things that are already in force field. So the floor plan and the walls are already in a protective force field. So that allows us to very easily triple click to select this refrigerator. So I can make this a component and you can name it if you want. We'll do a fridge spelled kind of wrong. And now this is a separate thing in your model. So you can move it around. You can move it away from your wall. Nothing's getting destroyed. You can delete it and nothing else happens. So this is oftentimes the way that I like to go mock up stuff and kind of, if I'm sort of reverse engineering a plan or taking what's inevitably, I hope there's no architects on here, but sometimes architects don't really plan the kitchens fully. So you can kind of, draw on top of their things and do your own interpretation of it. It also lets you bring in other components. So we're going to kind of jump ahead in this process a little bit. And we'll go to Window. We'll go to 3D Warehouse. So let's say I had done the kitchen and I wanted to start doing the rest of the room. And let's say I want couch. So we'll just do a general search for couch. And let's see, we need kind of a love seat looking couch. Let's see what we got here. So we'll find, this one's pretty good. So we'll bring in this guy here. So we'll download that from 3D Warehouse. Now, first problem we see with this couch is it's pretty big, but that's okay. We have a scaled model on top of it. So we're just going to click to set this down, and we'll click the Scale tool here, and that's going to give you some scale handles. That's going to let you shrink this couch down. I'm just going to get it closer, and then I'll go over to my Move tool and just move it a little bit like this. Maybe look on the top, get it like this. And you can actually go to Camera, Standard Views, and you can go to Top and really get a top-down view like this. And then I can actually go back to my Scale tool, and I can sort of stretch this couch and get it just the right size like this. Here we go. It's looking a little better. And you can kind of do the same thing. You can bring in furniture and all the stuff from the 3D Warehouse and really quickly start mocking up a room. Kathy says, do you have a link to access the other SketchUp sessions? Aaron will answer that one, and he can get those over to you shortly. So stay tuned, Kathy. We'll have those for you in a few minutes. Let's see. So one last thing. I've got about 5 more minutes to go. Those 10 million internet points are still out there if anyone has any guesses. I showed you here a good floor plan. this one is, scanned well. It's perfectly parallel with the red and the green axes in SketchUp. So I had a pretty easy time tracing this one. So I want to give you like a tip that can really help you if you get kind of a wonky scan, or you didn't get the plan on your scanner just right, or your PDF is a little shifted. So I'll actually do this on the same plan here. So I'm just going to copy this over here. So let's say your plan came in and it was askew like this. And the challenging thing with tracing a plan like this is that if you do what I did, none of the lines are going to snap because none of them are parallel with the axes in SketchUp. Now, there's a couple ways that you can deal with this. You could take the rotate tool and you could rotate it flat like this. That's one way you could do it. And the way I would do it would be to find the longest section that you can find, use the rotate tool and get right in a corner like this, and go out as far as you can and get that dotted line as parallel to a wall as you can get. And then you can move your mouse pointer back towards the protractor and you can actually rotate the plan parallel with the axes. And what that will now allow you to do is when you trace, that's going to make everything snap really nice to a wall. The other way that you can do this, I'm getting a little overzealous with my undo tool here. We'll put this back over here and we'll make this askew again. The other way you can do it is you can actually turn the axes in SketchUp. So you can click this one here, and this is going to give you axes, and you can find a meaningful corner of your model. So I'm going to find down here, and if you make 2 clicks, I'm just going to zoom out here and click over here, and then click over here. I get these parallel. It's going to actually rotate the axis of my model to now line up with that plan. And this has the same effect. So now the lines are all going to be parallel, so it's going to be much easier for you to trace around this plan. The last tip for tracing a plan is you might notice that the lines in SketchUp are black. And that means, there is actually a line here and there is a line here. I just put them in, but it's hard to see. So you can actually go to, that window's around here somewhere. You can go to Window, and you can go to Styles, which has appeared down here. And Styles can edit all the line types and the text and the way a model is rendered. But if you go in here, you can edit the color of the lines. So when I click color on my other screen here, it's going to pop up this dialog. So I'm going to switch them to yellow, this kind of mustard yellow here. And then I'm going to change the profiles to like a really thick line. And this lets you see all of the lines in yellow. So it makes it really easy to diagnose where you've been and where you haven't been. And so you can get your tracings done and really visually see what's happening. And oh my goodness, I have too many zoom windows covering everything here. We'll move these out of the way. And so that'll help you trace the models out really well. And when you're done, you can go back into Styles. So, go back in here, Styles, and we can go to Select, and these are the ones that are in your model, or you can just go to Default Styles, click one of these, and it will just put everything back to the way that it was. And if you're a pro user, you can kind of save one of these as a template, but it's pretty quick. You can just go in here and change these really fast if you want. So, again, you probably don't want mustard yellowed lines in all of your drawings when you're done with them. So you can just go back and change them back really easy. Aaron, that puts me right to about 11 o'clock. Is that right?
You are on the ball. We had questions answered, so I wasn't too worried about that. I was trying to get the link to the other sessions.
Aaron, I shared it, but I can drop it in the chat bar again.
That would be great.
Nobody has claimed the 10 million internet points, so Aaron, I will put it to you for your guess.
Well, I know it's a TV show. I'm teasing it out a little bit because we have 1 minute left. Anyone? TV show?
I know it's
set in New York.
90s TV show.
It is.
Anyone?
Tammy's typing something.
No,
nope.
She didn't get it.
Oh, yeah, she knows.
Where are you seeing the?
In the chat.
Watching
window?
the chat. It is, I believe this is Seinfeld's apartment.
That would be correct. I looked this up. So here, spoiler alert. There we go. So you can find the Seinfeld characters, the cast, if you would like as well. They are available in 3D Warehouse for download. So I was looking for 90s, sitcom apartments to trace over, and oh god, why can't I think of it? Kelsey Grammer,
Frasier.
I looked at Frasier's apartment. That guy had a lot of money in the 90s because he has a huge sprawling apartment. And I started drawing it. And I was like, what am I doing? This is way too big.
I totally agree.
Had a much more, practical.
Can I make a request for next time? What about a friend's apartment?
Oh, so I have the plan for the friend's apartment too. Also, they had, I can do it. But there's so much tchotchke in that apartment. And it is incredibly large as well. Them being baristas or whatever jobs they had did not add up to the size of their New York apartment. So I'm calling.
No kidding
on that too.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. This was I was taking notes. I learned some things. I'm gonna steal. I mean, be inspired by to create my own content about.
Steal all you want.
But thank you guys very much. Thank you for swinging by. Thank you for watching Eric's presentation, and we hope we see and hear from you in the future.
Yeah, thank you. And my contact info is floating around somewhere on our site. But if anyone here has any questions, I'm gonna head out right now. But my contact info is available. Feel free to reach out. And there's the chats.
And you can find Eric's contact information on the Zoom link where you registered. It's right in the description.
Nice. So anyone who has been here, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer any questions for you.